Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Maximal Skywarp and Sideswipe 2-pack from the Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy Battle Across Time collection from Hasbro. So this was an Amazon exclusive set. We've seen them do this before. I think the last one was called the Galactic Odyssey collection or something like that. I think it was during Earthrise, where they just want to give us some more characters and repaints and things like that. So they kind of make these 2-packs and they just give them to Amazon and do them as Amazon exclusives. So this went up for pre-order a while ago and they just came out. I think they're still in stock if you're still looking for these. I think Amazon actually does have both of them. And I say both of them. There is actually a second one which I wanted to show off real quick because this beautiful artwork is actually meant to sync up. So if you get the other one, which you can see is Maximal Grimlock and Autobot Mirage, the artwork on the front of the two boxes links up. It actually has part of Skywarp's wing over here on this side, but I love the artwork. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. That's one of my favorite things about these. And kind of the move to windowless packaging to get rid of the plastic allows for things like this, which I really like. So I think it's kind of a twofer. You get to minimize your plastic and you get to kind of have much more impactful artwork here on the front of the box, which I really, really enjoy. So review for this one will be coming up in a couple days probably as I go through all the things that I've got recently. But we'll be focusing on just Skywarp and Sideswipe in this one here. But again, really cool artwork. Even extends to the side over here. You can see Scorponok and some pterodactyls or pteranodons. I'm not really sure which they are, but kind of hoping that's maybe a pterosaur tease, something like that. I think we've seen leaks for pterosaurs somewhere in the mix. Over here on this side, just the kind of standard Kingdom artwork. And then you have a Maximal and Autobot symbol here on the top, because of course there's one of each. And then not really anything going on the bottom. If we spin around to the back, we have that typical like cave painting thing that they have going on, this motif, with the robot modes and the alt modes. And you can probably already tell, we've seen this mold actually. This is a newer mold for the Earth mode of Sideswipe, but we've actually already gotten it for Red Alert. And then Skywarp over here is just a repaint with a new head of Air Razor. So not too much in terms of surprises for this set, but I think they both look really cool and I'm excited to pick this up. So without further ado, let's get these guys out of the box and let's take a closer look. Alright, so here are the two out of the packaging. I'm going to put Skywarp off to the side for a moment and we will focus in on Sideswipe first. So I think the mold looks great. Again, we have seen it already in the new Kingdom Red Alert, which I took a look at probably 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. But it should be that exact same mold. But again, looks great as Sideswipe. Really, really appreciate it. Going to do a quick comparison here with Siege Sideswipe. So you can see the differences. Definitely more of a stark white, whereas this guy was kind of a cream color, which it's kind of funny. You don't realize how much of an off-white cream color this is until you put it right next to the absolutely bright white of the Earth Sideswipe. It's kind of funny. I really didn't notice it as much until you put them right next to each other. You can also see that this is kind of a more rounded hood of the car, which is now the chest plate. Over here it's a lot boxier. Really most of the molding differences are going to be in vehicle mode, so if we spin them around you can see the roof of the car here is obviously different with the sides, the doors and everything, and then in the feet, which is going to be the back of the car in vehicle mode. So that's really where most of your differences are coming from. Looking around to the front, again, it's really just some aesthetic differences. The legs are kind of painted differently. I think in both cases it was black feet that were then painted different colors. The silver's a little bit more effective just because anytime you have to put white paint over black plastic, you really have to cake it on to make sure that the black doesn't show through. But I think it's pretty successful for the feet. One thing that it did cause, though, the accessory here is exact same accessory that came with the Siege version. You can even see this piece is red, this piece is black. So they literally just took this and then they had to cake white paint over top of it so it wouldn't show through. Now it looks good and it's definitely cartoon accurate, but the problem is they remembered not to paint this. They didn't remember not to paint this. So anytime you have to cake white paint on something that's black plastic, you have to really put a lot on so it doesn't show through. Well, that's going to add added thickness to this piece. Now they didn't paint it here to make sure that this would still fit in all the peg holes, but they didn't leave the paint off of here, which means that when you go to put this in, it can fit, but barely. It's very snug, and I feel like putting that in and out of there is going to cause that paint to chip off over time. And I feel like if you already left the paint off of here, it wouldn't have been a big deal to leave the paint off of here because they're literally right next to each other. I don't know if that was just an oversight or they just weren't thinking about it or they just thought it would look better. I don't know. But because they painted that, it's a little difficult to get it in and out of there. I'm just going to leave it off for the rest of the review. But it can still fit in both of those. It's just a little snug. Now again with the gun, this was originally black painted white, but it's okay. And they did not paint the peg so it fits in and out of his hand very easily. So that actually works really well. So I am happy about that. But yeah, he looks good. I mean, head sculpt's good. I guess we'll get the Siege version out of here since we're done with that. But yeah, head sculpt looks good. Pretty much exactly the same as the Siege one, to be quite honest. You have the nice boxy chest plate here. The Autobot symbol looks really good there on the front. And we've seen this figure 100 times, so just real quick. You have a ball joint here at the neck, so you can kind of tilt side to side, front to back. You can look side to side. You have a swivel here. You have a hinge. You have a bicep swivel. You have 90 degrees at the elbow. Wrist doesn't move because it folds into the forearm. You have a waist swivel. You can kick front. You can kick back. You can kick out to the side. You have a thigh swivel. You do have the knee bend 90 degrees where this piece sinks back in so you can get the full movement there. And then, of course, you have the tilt here in the ankle. You have a little bit of front to back, but not really much. Like I said, we've seen this figure, I feel like, literally 20 times at this point. I really don't think that's an exaggeration. So you guys know what to expect in terms of articulation and everything like that. But it's still a good mold. I mean, honestly, I'm like I said, I'm not exaggerating. I probably have at least 15 of these across all the different releases they've done of both the Siege mold and the Earthrise mold and, you know, Gigawatt and things like that. So they've used this mold quite a bit, but it's a pretty solid mold. I don't really have any complaints. I think it still looks good. I think this version of Sideswipe still looks good. Yeah, like I said, not really any complaints. We'll go ahead and we will get into the transformation here. So like I've said, we've seen this transformation, I feel like 100 times at this point. I'm going to run through it really quick. Flip the hood up to cover the head. Put the arms out to the side. Flip out these panels. Bend this at the elbow. Flip the fists into the forearms. This will come in and clip into, not clip into place, but just kind of snug in there. You're going to spin the waist around 180. You're going to flip open the shin panels. You're going to push these parts back. You're going to straighten out the foot, and that's going to collapse in there. So do that. Then you're going to flip these around. This is going to snap together, go down like this, flip these closed, flip these closed, and flip this closed. And there you go. There is your Earth mode for Sideswipe. Let me go ahead and flip this down, and we'll do a comparison again with the Siege alt mode, and you can tell they are very different. You can tell he's a little bit longer. Definitely has the boxier front like a Lamborghini. You can see how different the roof of the car and the windows and everything are, so that's very, very different there. And the molding here on the sides and on the top and the back of the vehicle are different. Now, one thing I will say I am kind of bummed about, I really wish he had a spoiler. I get it. Because of the way these pieces have to rotate back and into the back of the leg so you can get the full knee articulation, it's not really an option to have something on here all the time, even if you would have it split in half. What I would have liked, just do, see how these kind of slits are right here on the sides? Just do something exactly like that, but one right here vertically, perpendicular to this, one right here, and then just give me a little spoiler piece that I could just peg right in. That's all you need. Even if it doesn't stay in the robot mode, I would be okay with that. Even if it was just something that you could just peg in just so he had it in the vehicle mode, because I really feel like it's important to his vehicle mode. It's pretty iconic for his vehicle mode. So that's the only thing I'm a little bummed about. And I think I've seen some people online do some kind of 3D print, like add-on kits for things like that. And maybe they even peg into these little slits that are already there. There are things that people sell online that you can buy to kind of, you know, give him the spoiler. But it's a really good vehicle mode other than the spoiler. I think it looks really great. I really like it a lot. It's definitely a lot different. I should say more different than I thought it was going to be. I mean, when I first saw the pics, when you don't have them right next to each other, you don't realize exactly how different they are. But they're honestly pretty different. So they did a good job taking this mold and, you know, redoing the legs and everything in the vehicle mode to make it look different, because it is the same mold at the heart of it and transforms the same. Just wish there was a spoiler. I would have been perfectly fine with just an extra piece when this is all done that you just pegged in. I understand it, you know, it can't stay while you're transforming, but just something to boop, pop that right on would have been perfect. But otherwise, it's good. You have the peg holes on the side, so if you want to peg any of these weapons around, you can certainly do so. So you can peg those all around if you want. But yeah, otherwise, really good vehicle mode. I like it quite a bit. Next up we have Skywarp, and he looks good. He's got a lot of white to him, as you can see, so I apologize if the white balance of the video is a little off. But he looks pretty good. Honestly, the most notable difference between him and Airazor is the head sculpt, which I think looks pretty cool. I love how it has the eagle head here as kind of a crest or a hat for the head. And then the eyes and the face sculpt, I think, all look really, really nice, and they're detailed and painted well. So head can go side to side. You got a little bit of up and down because it is on a ball joint. Kind of tilt a little bit side to side, but very minimal. You do have a swivel here and a hinge in the shoulder, and you can see that the shoulder pads can move a little bit too with that. You have a bicep swivel. You have a little over 90 degrees in the elbow. Now you do have an extra joint here in the middle of the forearm, which is really more for the transformation, but if for some reason you wanted to use it as a second elbow, you have that option. You have a swivel here in the waist. You have a hinge for out to the side movement for the leg. You can kind of kick forward a little bit, pretty decently. This gets stopped by the tail feathers here, but if you wanted, you could move those up a little bit. Do we have, yeah, we have, so we don't really have a thigh swivel. Well, we kind of have a mid-thigh right above the knee swivel there, and then you have little over 90 degrees in the knee because of the transformation. And then again, you have kind of a second knee in the shin, which again is really used for the transformation, but if you wanted to use it for some reason in robot mode, you could. And then a ball joint here for the ankle. So pretty good amount of articulation. And again, I think he looks really cool. Transforms into a bald eagle. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this guy was part of Magnaboss, I believe. So I'm assuming that means we're not actually getting a Magnaboss since they gave us this. And that's kind of a bummer. I didn't really expect to get one, but you just kind of get a reference to one character from that combiner. And that, I'm sure that's going to be it, because I don't think we're going to get anything for the rest of them. But he's still pretty cool. I like him. I think the color scheme works well. I think, of course, you know, it does fit the mold being a giant bird. I think Airazor is technically a hawk and he's an eagle, but it works. I mean, you know, they're both large birds. I get it. You have these little accessories here that plug into the forearms. I'm not really sure what these are supposed to be. Maybe just kind of like little, you know, firing missiles or some kind of just like laser cannon or something, but they just peg into the side of the forearm there, and these are molded in white. So just proving that, you know, Hasbro can actually mold things in white plastic instead of making them other colors and then painting them white. So I don't know why they don't just do that all the time, but that's neither here nor there. So let's put them off to the side for the moment. But yeah, pretty good articulation, I would say. I love the head sculpt. Now with the wings, you can kind of pop them out if you want to spread them out farther. You certainly can, and of course you have this movement here for the wing as well. So they just kind of collapse like this to kind of store them a little better, but if you wanted to give him the full wingspan, if you wanted to fly around in robot mode, that is an option. And basically these just kind of fold up, and you can see they have a little tab right here, and that pegs into that little tab spot right there. So you just kind of collapse that in and then fold this all down, and then you're good to go. So let's go ahead. We will get into the transformation here. So transformation is actually pretty simple. You're going to come back here to the wings, and if you do have them kind of collapsed in, you're going to want to open them up all the way and stretch them out. You're going to open this up. You're going to pop up the tail section like this. You're going to lift up this midsection because it kind of accordions down. So if I can actually get this to do this, it's always a little tricky. I always have difficulty with this. Here we go. So if you can see here, if the wing's not in the way, there's a joint right here, if I zoom in, right here, and that's what you want to bring up so that it's straight up like that. Then you want to open this up a little bit, and we're going to rotate the head around. So rotate this around like so. Then this is going to make sure that this is still all the way up, because sometimes it does kind of come back down. And then that's going to close up and peg into the top of the eagle there. You're going to take the shoulder pads, push them down. You're going to use that bend in the middle of the forearm, and then rotate that around, and then kind of peg these inside here. And I feel like I still don't quite have this up correctly. No, I guess that's right. So you fold this down, bend this in the forearm, rotate this in like so, and you can kind of see how there is a little spot here on the bottom of the fist, this little nubbin, and that kind of fits in that little channel right there. So this comes down and goes in like so. Then you're going to spin the waist around 180 degrees, and be careful because mine keeps just coming completely out. It's not a big deal. It's just the mushroom peg, so you just push it back in. Just make sure it's pushed all the way in. Then you're going to push the tail feathers down until they click. Then you're going to lift this up, and you can see if you spin this around, there is a little kind of tab here. That's going to, I should say a tab hole. That's going to tab onto this. So if we bring this in, and you want to spin this around and then bring this down to get it out of the way, and then you can peg this in there like that, and then you're going to just fold that up at that extra joint I showed you, and then spin the foot around. So doing that again, we will spin this, we will bring this up and around so that this can peg in right there. Then we're going to fold this down, fold this up, and then spin this around 180 degrees. That's really just a way to collapse the legs because there's not a great place to store them otherwise. So there you go. There is your bald eagle mode. Not bad. And if you want to kind of have him stand up, you can use the head up like this and then kind of bring the feathers in if you want him to be kind of like perched. Now, for some reason, this always comes unpegged. I don't really know why, that panel on the back, but it's not a big deal. You can move it around. And the other thing that's pretty cool, so I like the paint applications and everything for the bald eagle head. You can actually open the mouth. It's pretty minuscule, but you can kind of close it up, and then you just have this little tab down there. You can open it up, which is pretty cool. You have this swivel here. You have this hinge here. You have this hinge, pretty much everything that was on the wings beforehand. And then really just all the same articulation as the bottom, like from the knee down of the robot mode. So that's pretty much the eagle mode. I think it looks pretty good. I did forget to mention that you can store these pieces back here on the side of the leg. So if you want to go ahead and just peg these into, I guess technically the thighs of the robot mode. So yeah, I like them a lot. Like I said, it's a fairly simplistic, and it's not too much to the transformation, and it's mostly just kind of tucking things up underneath. But I think it works. I like it. I really appreciate that the beak can open and close. The blue eyes for the eagle, I think, look pretty good. And I appreciate all the different wing articulation that you can really kind of, if you want him to just kind of be like a tiny, like if you want him to have this completely closed up, you can do that, like he's sitting somewhere perched. So I think that's pretty cool. It worked for AirRazor. It works here. It's a pretty cool little repaint. I think this is a really fun set. I mean, yes, they're just repaints / remolds of figures you probably already have, but they're good repaints. With Skywarp, like I said, I think this character was part of Magnaboss back in the day, and I would have loved to have seen a fully transforming, combinable Magnaboss, but since that wasn't really in the cards, at least this is another way for them to reuse the AirRazor mold, which was a fun, good mold, and I'm glad to see some more life out of it before it goes away. And this is a fun repaint. I think he looks good. The head sculpt's great. It's just a fun toy. With Sideswipe, you know, we've seen this mold 100 times at this point, and I use that as an exaggerated number, but it's not quite an exaggerated number. I would say 20 is probably pretty fair to say. But I still think he looks good. I mean, he's different enough from the Siege version as we saw. I think he's worth adding to your collection. Technically, we've seen this mold already as Red Alert. And that one, you know, it's kind of the Earth mode versus the Cybertronian mode. But they're different enough that I think it's worth it. And I think he really does look good. My only complaint with him, like I said, they painted that peg on this where it plugs into the shoulder there, and that does add some thickness, which makes it a very snug fit, and so just be a little careful of that. It does actually still go in, but I wouldn't push it too hard. Once you kind of get it to go in, just let it sit. Like, this is probably not as like far down as I would normally have it if it wasn't painted, but since it is, I don't want to jam it in too hard so that I can't get it out again, because I don't want to break that peg hole, because of course you do need it for these pegs here when you're transforming it into vehicle mode. So I think it's a great set. Just be a little careful with this, and otherwise it's just a really fun, good repaint, and I'm happy to have these guys in the collection. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.